On behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, we welcome you all for this exclusive session on hiring, retaining, and nurturing female talent, global best practices. The session is conducted by Ms. Meera Remini, International Executive Coach from Germany. Thank you, Meera, for accepting our invitation to address our members on this session. The session is organized under the aegis of Human Resource and Women Empowerment and Leadership Expert Committee of the Chamber. The Chamber also acknowledges our members' support by way of annual sponsorship of the events. Mrs. Bueller, Fundermax, Wipro, MTR, and Sona Group of Companies. Thank you very much, sponsors, for your support. And now I hand over the stage to Dr. Augustus Azaria, who chairs the HR and Women Empowerment Leadership Expert Committee of the Chamber. Over to you, Dr. Augustus. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for organizing this event, Bangalore Chamber of Commerce Secretariat team and Rupa in particular. This session this afternoon is about hiring, retaining, and nurturing female talent, especially as our landscape keeps changing day by day. You know, we are now on a return to office mode, and do these principles on hiring, retaining, and nurturing continue to prevail? We'll get a little bit more into that detail, but before that, I would like to invite Shekhar, our president, BCIC, to welcome the audience. Shekhar, over to you, and thank you for waking up early this morning to be here with us. Shekhar is traveling in the US, and it's very kind of him to have accepted at last notice to come and welcome this event. Thank you, Shekhar.
Hey, thanks a lot, Agi. Thank you, Meera, for participating. On behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, I heartily welcome you for this very important webinar. Though, Agi, I keep getting up at 4 and 5 in the morning for my calls and interactions. But I made it a point to attend this webinar because this topic is very close to my heart, as you know. Encouraging female talent is something, an objective with BCIC has been working. And when I saw the topic, I said, yes, I will participate in this call. And first, I thank Agi, you and Lavanya and other committee members for organizing this webinar, because this topic is very, very close to my heart as well as in BCIC heart. Let me just give a little bit background, set the context, and then I'll hand it over to you, Agi and Meera. Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce is encouraging a lot of female talent. In fact, the few initiatives that we took it, number one, every committee, every organization should nominate at least 2 women members to all our expert committees. We have around 18 expert committees where we are requested every organization to nominate at least 2 women members. Some of them responded, few responded partly, and some did not respond. But still, we are making sure that every organization at least has got 2 women representatives, in addition to the normal representatives, what they do to be a part of the BCIC expert committee. Second, we made it a point that in every webinar that BCIC is organizing, we'll have at least 2 to 3 women speakers. At least that means minimum 1 women speaker. If it's a 1-hour webinar, if it's a conclave, we'll have 2 women speakers. In fact, in the earlier webinar where we participated, where there is the seminar on tax deducted at source, we had at least 4 or 5 women speakers participate. We had a business leaders conclave where we had at least 5 top women CEOs participated in the business leaders conclave. So our objective, I don't say encouraging because that is not the right word, but to make sure that women leaders get adequate face time with everybody. The problem that I see being a leader in my own way, in my organization and in my other social society side, women leaders do get a less face time with the audience, with the society, because there is always a perception about the growth of the women leaders, which I wanted to dismantle that myth. And that's one of the reasons I always say that we need to encourage the female talent. In fact, yesterday I was jokingly talking to Ravindran, and we were looking for we were looking for recruiting more people in the secretariat. And I was telling Mr. Ravindran, let's look for two females to secretariat team. He asked me the reason. My always the reason women has got more loyalty than the men for anything and everything. Whether it is organization, whether it is a family, whether it is social, whether it is a culture, whether it is a value. Uh, my personal women has got more loyalty towards all this stuff than the men. And sometimes men are like butterflies, women are not butterflies. So I always believe that the more women we have, the better the organization will be. That is my humble view. Why I'm saying is that organization is not different from family. A family will always prosper. Family will always do good if we have a right mother, right housewife, and a right sister. If one of them is not right, the family will not do well. Whatever be the male can do that, but ultimately the success of a family lies with the female. And same way I consider the success of an organization also lies with a female, a good female and loyal females. And that's the reason I always believe that female talent has to be encouraged. And second one, which I am personally close to my heart, when we talk about a female organic growth, female talent, we immediately come to a conclusion. They should be some sort of a professionals. They should be in the forefront. They should do the organization, CEOs and stuff like that. Women talent need not be confined to organization, a corporate or a CEO. I go back to the traditional adage, behind every successful man, there is a woman. If female is not successful in my house, the male cannot contribute to anything what he can do. So therefore, I personally believe the role of female talent in managing the male and managing the house is equally important in managing an organization. And third, in the present scenario, coming to the business perspective, leaving the traditional and the emotional side of the uh, connect with the female talent and need for the female talent. From a business standpoint of view, there are multiple ways. Earlier, we had a work from home. I'm sorry, pre-COVID, the concept of working from home was not much known, except in few IT companies where they encourage people to work from home in order to give encouragement to the people. But the COVID situation turned it completely different, where every organization started working from home. We never imagined a manufacturing company would do a work from home. In the COVID situation, every organization turned work from home, and the work from home came a boon for all the employees. But at the same time, it has put a stress on the female, more stress on female than less stress on the male, for only two reasons. Reason number one, female not only has to manage the household work, but also need to participate in the office work. They got a family to take care. So with the result, the work from home created the what I would call the conflict of the times for the female folks between the time what they need to spend on the house and what they need to spend on the organization. And second important challenge work from home, which every organization, every HR person admitted, when you work from home, you take the time for granted. You always believe that employee is available for 24 hours, barring that 4 hours of sleep, 20 hours is available. So your calendar is not controlled by you. Your calendar is controlled by everybody other than you. With the result, most of us, male can always manage, but the challenge for females, you get calls at odd times in the evening, the late hours. So this is a two challenge. Though work from home gave a great boon to the people, particularly the female, but these two challenge has created a challenge. But our lot of organizations have worked towards that to make sure that female employees doesn't put into undue stress on this account. The another important challenge in the post-COVID scenario, which was there in the pre-COVID scenario, partly, there are two challenges. Number one, when organizations are expecting employees to return back to work, how much the employees will be able to come and how much the employees will be able to take it, though it is a lot of organizations follow a hybrid model, but still the hybrid model always puts some sort of expectation, and there's always an expectation gap. How to address the expectation gap? That's number one. The second challenge, which is for females, mostly for females, less for males, is about returning to the work after maternity. A lot of organizations, including Deloitte, what we call a bounce back principle, by which we give extended time for the female after the maternity, and they can come and join the work during some sort of flexi timings have been provided. They can work part-time basis, working from home, work at office, and a flexi timings has been provided. Encouraging the female to come back and join the work after maternity has become important for the organizations. In fact, one of the important recommendations by BCIC, as well, part of the labor law code, is that every organization which has got more than certain specific female employees should have some sort of a creche to take care of the kids when the females are coming back from maternity leave, because that gives the female folks some sort of flexibility for them to work. But point remains is that as organizations, we should be conscious of these challenges and make sure that we provide a level playing field to the female. I am not a great advocate of quota system or the reservation system. Somehow, right from my younger days, I don't believe quota system and reservation system can help. It's only providing a fair and the level playing field to everybody, which will make them to prosper, which will make them to enjoy, which will make them to contribute. And considering all the challenges around this, I'm extremely happy that we are having this sort of a topic addressed by eminent speaker like Ms. Meera Ramani. I'm sure these challenges cannot be resolved overnight. None of us have got a magic wand by which we swipe the magic wand and next day morning all the problems gets resolved. We don't have any magic wand. But what is more important is about education, promoting, socializing it, and above all, creating an awareness about the need to identify the resolutions or need to identify the solutions for the challenges. Every solution may not be uniform. Every organization, every individual has got their own resolution and solution for the challenges, but it is important that the individual and the organizations identify the solutions for the challenges and make sure that the female employees get the right share what they deserve. And finally, diversity is not just the male and female in my view. Diversity goes beyond the gender. Diversity goes beyond the gender parity. In my view, diversity is more of an inclusive. It also includes socially, physically disabled. It also includes rural and urban divide, because organizations should make sure that the divide between the urban and rural doesn't come into that, and encourage more rural employees, whether it is a women folks, whether it is a male folks, they should also come into the mainstream so that it helps to grow the country as a whole. And this is what I would like to put it as my presidential theme and the setting the context. And BCIC as an organization always encourages, and we encourage every views about this, which we can take it to the organizations. Thank you so much, Meera Ramani, for accepting our invite, and thank you so much for participating in today. And I'm sure all the audiences will find this session more useful. And thanks to you again, Lavanya, and all your committee members for organizing this very good session. Welcome. And back to you, Agi.
Thank you so much, Shekhar, for setting the stage and for speaking elaborately about the different constituents of diversity. And you really hit the nail on the head as far as this program goes. And I must also, I see a lot of familiar faces out there. Dr. Ravindran, Dr. Manohar, Asha, Arun Kumar, thank you for joining, and so many other names. Dr. Krasta, thank you for joining. And to the audience out there, welcome to this wonderful session that has been curated by Meera Ramani. And Meera Ramani is an executive coach of global repute, and she's based out of Germany. Now, how did we get a speaker like that? Well, blame it on social media. And I saw one of her posts on LinkedIn, and then I found that she was doing some amazing work in this space of women diversity. And I sent her an invite and a note saying that, hey, this is interesting. Would you be willing to come and talk to us about what you're doing? And she very readily agreed. And over the last few weeks, she was able to curate a program. We were trying to explain to her what the chamber is and what we do. And being thousands of miles apart, she got a good hang of what we are doing as a chamber. And she is going to speak to us. She has an IIM from Lucknow, and she has spent about 2 decades in leadership in organizations like Procter & Gamble, Amazon, Poland, and USA and India, and now residing in Germany. She now coaches and consults organizations such as Google, Microsoft, GSK, Capgemini, etc., who are all also located in India, by the way. And she coaches them on leadership best practices, including gender diversity. Now, to get into our program, we titled it Hiring, Retain, and Nurturing Female Talent. And in a situation where we've been at home for the last 26 weeks, and before that, we've had a lot of diversity and inclusive practices, hiring, and all that. But did we lose traction of any of it in the last 26 weeks? Is it going to change in the future as we are looking at the return to office? Some of these topics could be on your mind, and please come up with your questions. And out there in the comments column, please go and post it. And given that we will have some time towards the end, you can ask your questions and we will open it up to the audience. Until then, I'm not going to keep Meera away from you any longer. Thank you so much, and over to you, Meera.
Thank you, Shekhar. Thank you, Augie, and Rupa for inviting me in your midst. It's definitely a pleasure. And just before I get started, Augie, I have about 25 minutes, or how much do I have?
Yeah, you have 30 minutes, Meera.
30 minutes. Cool. Awesome. So thank you for the introduction, and happy to be in your midst. Let me just share my screen so we can get started. Like Augie said, please feel free to ask questions in the middle because I want to make it contextual to you. There is only so much we can cover in 20, 25 or 30 minutes. So if you have questions, then I can make it very specific to you. Can everybody see me and my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Or the presentation. Awesome. So everybody, the theme, as Augie said, that is the theme. However, I've taken the creative liberty to not just call it female talent, but diverse talent. The idea is look at diversity from a gender point of view, but make workplaces thrive and empower women as well as all genders through that lens. That is why I call it diverse talent. Now, what gives me the credibility to stand in your midst? So let me explain my story in a very quick minute. Augie has already been kind enough to give you a little snapshot of my journey. So I'm born in Kerala. I've done my MBA from IIM Lucknow. Since then, I've traveled the world or worked in different parts of the world, which includes India, Poland, Germany. And how that becomes contextual to the topic today is that while I did those jobs or when I led teams, I worked very, very multicultural teams. I worked with diversity, not just in geography, but gender. And I saw certain patterns. And earlier I would think, okay, probably certain things happen only in India, but I see the same patterns repeating. I'm sorry about my screen moving. So I see the same patterns, across the gender diversity, and I'm a keen observer. Like I call myself a strategic leadership partner. That means I want to see what how can individuals, leaders, teams, organizations thrive. So in that sense, I've studied gender diversity as well. And a lot of the work that I do with the names that you see at the bottom of the screen, whether it's Microsoft or GSK or Capgemini, is in the leadership empowerment spectrum. And a lot comes from the gender lens. And that is, I want to share with you my humble learnings, my experiences in facilitating the conversations and culture change in these organizations. And by no means, I'm the only expert in the room. I'm still learning, so I want to hear your experiences. If you disagree with something, feel free to put it in the chat. If you have a question, if you have a different idea, opinion that will enrich the conversation, please share with us in the chat so all of us can learn. So, I'm not going to go into the depths and widths of why gender diversity is important. I'm sure all of you are thought leaders in your field and you know the importance of gender diversity, what studies have revealed, how, a diverse team outperform non-diverse teams. And there are studies after studies that talk about how closing the gender gap will add trillions to the global economy. And how teams with more gender diversity have more above average profitability. So I just wanted to set that for context. You will have access to this content, so you can look back at the numbers if you're interested. I've also quoted the sources. But then the question that we need to ask is why is still largely untapped? Why is that still an issue in this day and age of digital revolution and all of those things? Why is still a largely untapped area in terms of the revenue generation, as well as the retention and the cultures we foster, the environment we foster for diversity? So there are three areas which I have found out in my journey across the world, leading teams, and now as an executive coach. What I feel is that gender diversity is, or fostering gender equity, is never a real priority or focus. And I'll come to a story in a bit. So we, in most companies, still get stuck to a micro level thinking, short term thinking when it comes to gender diversity or gender equity, while on all other parameters, they might think the big picture, the macro picture. And because of the lack of priority, they tend to address it in a very haphazard, disorganized manner. They're clueless about what to do because that is the only amount of time and effort that they're willing to put in. And then they do spot treatments like a workshop here on Women's Day, a few flowers for women on Women's Day, or something like that, spot treatment. So it never really goes anywhere. And what happens is that the community, the talent, both men, women, and all genders, right? They start getting frustrated about what's happening. So, and there is not really a culture being fostered. I have to admit, I'm not able to see the chat or anybody, so please raise your voice, Augie or Rupa, if there is a question for me. So even when there is an effort, organizing some events, companies or organizations or leaders and their teams still miss the mark. The opportunity still lies untapped. So what is the missing piece? To elucidate that, I want to talk about culture. That is where spot treatment or half measures don't work. This is about gender equity. Raising gender equity is about making a big difference in terms of the how each and every individual and the culture of the company operates. And I don't want to keep this at a very high level. I want to go into the nuances of what that means. What practical steps can you take and think in the next slides? To elucidate that, I want to give you a tale of two companies, and it is my own experience. A few years back, a client of mine, a regular client company of mine, approached me for something related to IWD, International Women's Day. And to be very fair, I have a certain, let's say, fee for the events I organize. And when I quoted my fee for this event, for the IWD event, they said, "Oh no, that's not our budget. Our budget is 1/4 or 1/5 of that. I don't remember." So I said, "Why?" "Oh, for gender diversity events, we don't have the budget." So that was sort of ironic. They're inviting me to an IWD event to raise the gender equity, but their investment equity has not reached at par, right? So you can only imagine what kind of gender equity or awareness and actions exist in that company. Now, I want to give another example of another company where they have the budget, where they put in the effort. I will not name these companies, but these are also large organizations with the right amount of budget. The budget is not a constraint, manpower is not a constraint, effort, organization is not a constraint. But again, the efforts remain skin deep. They don't go deeper or affect that culture change that I talk about like a broken record, because they do spot treatments. So you see that there is a difference in intention that is required to bring about that change. So what does it really take? So what I do, I'm an engineer, right? So I like to codify things. So as an engineer, I looked at, okay, what are the different strands I see in the companies I facilitate transformations for, and why do they work, right? Whatever the budget, what are the number of people involved, what is the size of the company? I don't only work for the Googles or the Amazons of the world. I also work for smaller mid-size companies as well. So what is the common thread that makes gender equity actions stick and create that culture change where women as well as other employees feel valued? They feel they have a lot of candidates applying to them, so that goes into the hiring factor. People feel that they're in an environment which respects their talent, so that goes into the nurturing and growing spectrum of talent. So what does it take? So I came up with three different elements, and that is what I want to present to you today. So number one is what I call an environment of trust. People need to feel safe. So I'm talking about psychological safety. People need to feel safe addressing matters, and just don't want to be speaking. They want to be heard. So they want to know that there is an environment of trust where their organization cares, that they're given the forums, safe spaces to speak up. And I'll talk about what the nuances of actually making it happen. Oops. Okay. The second is crucial conversations. That means, okay, you've created that safe space for people to talk. Now, what do you do with that talk? Are you engaging people in partnerships and alliances? And are you asking the right questions for solutions to emerge? So here we are talking about empowering people and people acting as allies, all genders, right? For problem solving. And here is where what you talk about, the culture of work is changing. Now we are back to office. Probably hybrid workspaces still exist. People want to come back from maternity. Is the company offering the right environment? All of that, solutions to all of that emerge in crucial conversations. And I'll get into the granularity of that. The third is then, okay, you've created a safe space, you're having conversations. What actions are you taking? Are they tying directly to an ROI? Are they being measured, and are they being improved? What is the consistency? These are the three factors that make a difference. That has made a world of difference to small as well as large organizations. So budget is not the constraint here. This is about the intentionality between each of these steps, behind each of these steps. So like I said, the first point is trust or safe, creating the right environment. So there is a safe space, psychological safety, and a lot of times when you have that kind of spaces, people realize, oh, I am not alone in thinking this way. My experiences are not singular or individual or specific to me. And that's when people amalgamate and create solutions. But before the solutions comes the part where people feel that they are not alone. They are not uniquely disadvantaged at a certain scenario. And they also see that the organization cares. Now, let me give you some examples in the sense of creating trust based on my work with Microsoft or Amazon or other companies, Indian companies, European companies, American companies, all of those things. There is a common thread. So in terms of trust, right, some of the exercises that I've done with companies is, for example, have a conversation where probably it's all just women or people who identify as women come together and say, hey, these are the top 5 to 10 things that we experience as a human being in my organization, as groups, in terms of my opportunities. So people just don't bottle it up, they bring it out, right? And there is an art to facilitating such conversations, so it just does not go into complaint territory but into productive territory. So but also a lot of women, and I have been one of them as well, mostly women have a problem of playing too small. We try not to speak much because traditionally we have been taught to be nice girls who don't rattle others, who don't displease others by speaking up or voicing our opinions. What if the other person feels rattled in our presence? So there is a lot of psychological conditioning that has gone into women, and we think it's only in India, but it's all over the world. So there are a lot of ways we women also stand in our own ways, apart from the organization or the biases as well. So we want to throw light on those aspects of personality. Why is there a lack of confidence? Why is there a lack of speaking up? Why do women, for example, when there is a job description, she looks at all the 10 descriptions and say, oh, I don't meet that last description, so I'm not going to apply. There are studies that show that men are more confident and they apply. So there is a lot of gender difference in how we show up for our careers as well. So the moment in a safe space, a woman is made aware of, oh wow, this is how I have been standing in my own way, and this is the remedy for it. She starts blossoming. She starts also putting, creating awareness and creating action plans and holding the right people, including herself, accountable. So that is one clear best practice. And if we don't have this number one element, everything else goes in for a toss. So let's say we have created that safe space. The women have come out and expressed what is standing in their own way, what experience are they having. Then we bring in, the other genders, we bring in the managers, we bring in the peers, we bring in everybody else, and we address experiences in the context of building awareness. And this is not to finger point saying that, oh, all the men are wrong, all the women are victims. No, this is about creating the right environment where people feel safe again to create experiences. So there, one of the first things to foundationally declare before the start of such engagements is that here nobody is going to play victim. Everybody is going to, or nobody is going to blame. So we are creating a safe space. So that has to be emphasized. Now that is when you then make people aware of the scientific research or research that is going on, talking about the number of different biases that exist, gender bias, all those bias, and even within gender bias there is affinity bias, likability bias, performance bias. For instance, likability, I think it's likability bias, which says that no, let's go talk about performance bias is even more critical in this context. Scientifically, it's proven that when there is when men and women do the same piece of work, do the same level of performance, men still get a higher attribution or acknowledgement to the work that is done. So that is called performance bias. The likability bias is we attribute women as being good women or good human beings if they are likable, if we are people pleasers, if we don't speak up. The moment we start talking our minds, we are called bossy. So those are biases, right? And that exists in us women as well as other genders. So in these crucial conversations, those emerge. But when you have the right environment of trust, those go into the productive territory. When then you get into problem solving. So your organization might have unique challenges from, created by Corona or anywhere, anything else, any other factor. But the biggest thing is the HR leader or the leader of the organization. Yes, he or she is responsible for creating solutions. But the brilliant thing is you empower your people um, to create the right, to come up with solution, to have the conversations. That is the most empowering thing to happen because people will find their own solutions. Mr. Shekhar talked about there not being a magic wand, but the note I made is there is no magic wand, but it's about unleashing the magic in each of us. There exists. We as Indians, or I believe there could be other cultures involved in this conversation as well. But regardless, we human beings are the most evolved species in the world, and we are capable of finding solutions. So it's about empowering ourselves. So what else did I want to talk about this? Okay, so that's about this slide or this point. So I do want to reinforce the fact that to find the best answers, you don't need rocket science. You need to empower people. You just need to let people know that they can find their solutions. So now the third, like I said, as an engineer, I codified everything into 3 key steps. The third step is intentional action and not spot treatment. So for example, when you take the physical fitness analogy, it is said that, you want six-pack abs, you just don't work on your abs. You need to work on your diet. You need to work on your overall body constitution and physical fitness regime for the whole body. So like that, to create the right ROI, to create the right profitability, if that's your measure, from gender parity, spot actions don't work. Intentional actions work. So some of the things, for example, what I did for Amazon this year is we did a workshop following this journey, created the safe space, created solutions. Then in the same sessions, in the same workshops, we came up with clear smart goals. So what is the specific thing? What are the specific key priorities we want to achieve in 6 months, 1 year, etc.? How would you measure that, right? And what is the timeline we want to associate with that? Who is the specific owner or who are the co-owners? And who is the executive sponsor? So that creates accountability, which is highly productive, highly effective. The second factor in terms of intentional action is consistency. That means in terms of the frequency of following up on the measures that you identified in terms of the goals and the message you are continuously giving your people. So communication becomes a very important aspect. Because if you're doing a lot of great work, but your people are not aware of what is the undercurrent, they will still remain a little frustrated. But if you tell them, hey, these are the 5 actions we are taking, this is the progress on them, this is the person responsible, the you know it creates a great environment for people to be even more involved. So that is about consistency. Third is cumulative. We want the feedback loop to be an active component. So that means there is a certain set of steps being done. Some are successful, some not. Let's see what's working. Why is it not working? What is working? What is the superpower of that? Then keep feeding it back. So that is the cumulative effect, like compound interest with money. So this has to be treated just like any other high priority client project, because it's not just about gender diversity, from the numbers, it's also about profitability, creating a thriving work culture, and also doing the best thing in terms of nurturing the right talent and social responsibility. So the benefits are not just customer delight, right, or employee delight. It's a self-reinforcing factor. So can you all still hear me? Can somebody just give a shout out? I'm just not sure who's in. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Meera.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, thank you. So what is the journey? So let me summarize the journey here for you. So like I said, the first step, if we were to stretch those 3 components into what specific steps you can do, first is, like I said, create a safe space with the psychological safety. And that is where, I came in as a facilitator for Amazon as an external facilitator, and I created the safe spaces, conversations, so that people were able to express. Some wanted to do it anonymously, some not. But at the end, we made sure there were some aha moments for the leadership that had not been coming out. They had been doing surveys after surveys, but without creating the right safety, psychological safety, the answers just don't come out. They're afraid, what if their boss or manager takes offense, for instance. The second step is the bias awareness then. You've created the psychological safety, the answers are starting to pour out, whether anonymously or not. Then we can start talking about what are the biases we see in our organization, within the context of our organization, within the context of the current challenges, whether it's Corona, post-Corona, something else comes tomorrow, hopefully not. So that's what it is, to remain flexible and dynamic. Then the smart actions, which is the specific measurable actions, time-bound. What is critical, like I said, is the management buy-in. So we need to have owners as well as executive sponsors, which will send the right message across the organizations. Again, I won't name the organization, but the moment an executive sponsor came into to the picture, and he or she put their weight behind it and started communicating regularly, the culture of the organization changed. It's not that he or she had to do the entire culture change. People started rallying for this. So that was amazing. And it showed up in business results as well. So then, like I said, you have to keep it an active, consistent, cumulative priority by tracking, measuring, and improving. So what are the results we can expect? These are just three of them. Employee engagement, your company might have ways of measuring it through feedback surveys, some other methodologies, etc. Business results, of course, the more engaged your say workforce is, women, men, everybody, they work as allies, there is more harmony within the team. People feel more acknowledged, which psychologically leads to better performance because they are more invested in their job. Business results do go up, customer satisfaction does go up. So you can measure in terms of that as well. And these people act as talent magnets. You don't need to tell them to go and talk about the organization. I, as a happy employee, would go and tell everybody in my circle, family, friends, etc., saying that, hey, I'm so happy with my organization. They're doing amazing things. I'm just so proud. They just act as natural talent magnets for your organizations and employees who take ownership over their growth as well as the growth of the company. So one of the questions I want to ask you is please leave a message in the chat and I'll come to it. What is a key metric you would use in terms of gender equity? Would it be employee engagement, some specific business result, any KPI or OKR, or anything else? So just have a think, and if you have a answer in your mind or a thought, please share. So there is one thing I do want to watch out for. Know your role. And here I bring again a psychological concept, which is important, like I said, about how a particular endeavor goes through. So this is something called a Karpman drama triangle. So whenever a situation occurs, whether it's in your personal, private, or professional life, we all tend to take on certain roles very automatically. So the bottom one is the victim. We might feel that, oh, it's poor me. Everything is happening to me. The world, my manager, my partner, my husband, wife, whoever, treats me like this. So it is happening to me. Things are happening to me. So I feel disempowered. I feel that there is no hope. So people could act from that mentality. There is another mentality from which we could act, which is the persecutor. So I might actually be propagating not so great practices, not saying I'm the villain, but I could be propagating the wrong practices and keeping a blind eye. Or if somebody raises a concern, I might turn aggressor so that I can shut them down, because my aggressiveness will shut them down, mostly the domineering character. So I could be judgmental, not open, bullying, etc. The third archetype could be that of a rescuer, where we actually take power away from the other person, saying that, hey, help me, let me rescue you, let me do things for you, self-sacrificing, going overboard, etc. But the problem with that is, here we take power away from the people and we put everything on our shoulders, and where one, we tend to burn out. The second is the other person always becomes dependent on us. Now, these are not the only three archetypes. There could be other archetypes, but I want us to be aware of this while we affect the gender equity, while we affect that change in gender equity, because it's for all of us to see under which circumstances do I act in each of these capacities, and which is my more dominant, what is it called, archetype. If I identified with one of this as a victim, I need to know that I'm in the organization for a reason. The organization values me, whether they tell me or not. So I can honor my voice and my intelligence. As a rescuer, you can say that, I'm giving my power back. I don't need to rescue somebody. I can empower them as a manager or a leader. And the persecutor can observe their own habits and try and change that, either by themselves or with therapist, coach, etc. Anyhow, so that is what I wanted to say. And I'm just looking at the time. So I've taken 26 minutes. I guess now I can safely hand it over to Q&A. But nevertheless, before I go, I do want to be of service to a few of you, because we covered a lot of ground, but we haven't contextualized probably for a lot of you. So what I'm offering is, you can email me. I'm also very active on LinkedIn, Meera Ramani. You can ping me for a 15-minute strategy consult where I can tell you how to contextualize this in your organization, so we can have a conversation. So I'm happy to offer you that. And now we are over to Q&A. And once again, thank you very much, Augie, Rupa, and everybody in the team and the audience here. What, as a last parting remark, I'm going to stop presenting so I can see more of you. As a parting remark, I'm very encouraged by the fact that we have 31 attendees and a lot of industry leaders and thought leaders in the audience here. That is a great sign that we are on the right path. So thank you for being with us and giving me the opportunity. Now over to you.
Thank you, Meera, for those deep insights. And I would like to add here that quite a few of our members couldn't join, but they requested that the recording be sent to them. And therefore, this meeting is being recorded. Rupa will take care of that. And to the audience out there, please post your queries or you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Meera, and hi, Augustus. That was a wonderful session. I could really connect to whatever you were saying. Just wanted to know a little bit more about this Kaufman drama triangle. It was really a new framework for me. So,
Yeah.
How long has
That's Dr. Padmaja Meera, and she's an active member of our expert committee. She is also the dean of the management school at MS Ramaya University.
Yes, sorry, I should have
Thank you.
introduced
Thank you,
myself
Dr.
also.
Patmaja. Nice to meet you, and thank you for the question. So, what would you specifically like to know about the Karpman triangle? Please let me know.
All the three, you've put some pointers there for the persecutor, rescuer, and victim. When I know we all feel victimized many a times, but then
Yes.
how would we differentiate and how would we distinguish ourselves from the rescuer or from the persecutor? Just a little bit more insights on that.
Yes. Got it. So I'll use my own example from a few years ago, right? When I was much younger in my corporate career, and I was in a situation where things were not going great at work. Let's say that, I was in Poland, and I was very young in my career back then, and things were not going great with my manager. I felt that she was bullying me, or she was not acknowledging my presence or my mm, contributions. Now, looking back at it, or back then, a little later in that experience, I had looked back at it and I was able to um, make that relationship from sliding further down. What happened is I realized that I was making her um, the centerpiece of my, validation. So that meant that if my manager says that, whatever I'm doing is not good, I would feel underconfident. And the tendency of me not to speak up, I would not raise my concerns with my manager on a timely manner. And just being contextual to this. But if I were to take, so the opposite of all three, or the more empowered way to look at all of these three, to take a ownership mentality instead of the victim, perpetrator, or the other one. So if I were to take ownership, I would have had more regular conversations, feedback conversations, where I would also have respectfully challenged her. Said that, dear boss, I appreciate your perspective. However, these are the three things I delivered and on time. Where exactly do you not see, did it not meet your expectation? So that would have made a fact-based discussion happen. But in making myself wrong and feeling underconfident, feeling that everything against me, I played victim. What is the other one? Empowerment. So, for example, coming from that experience, what I then did is I started being the rescuer for other people. All I thought that I had to rescue all the females in my team, right? And as in, I would spoon feed them. I tell, do this, do that, do this, do that, keep them all safe. Like I'm the mother hen,
Sure.
right? This is not generic to gender, but I'm just saying this was my pattern. So there I was being the rescuer. But in doing that, what I could have done better is I could have coached them, saying that what is happening? How can you take ownership over the situation?
Sure.
How can you add your 1% power to that? Now coming to the perpetrator or the villain, let's say, I have not played that role luckily, or at least I have not been told. But the fact is, if we, if we see that regularly, for example, in yearly feedback, people are telling us, oh, this person tends to rub people off the wrong way. This person is disrespectful. He or she doesn't let me talk or let all of that. Then there is a sure sign that there is a way we are being not open. We're not letting people. We're not acknowledging people. So I hope that helped. I hope that helped clarify the differences.
Sure. There's something new that I learned today. Thanks.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Any more questions for Meera? Well,
I'm sure
I
you
think,
have questions. Don't be shy.
Hi, Meera. This is Dr. Manohar. Dr. Augustus, may I ask a question, please?
yes, please, Doctor, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot. It's been very, very interesting and revealing. I must also thank Dr. Padmaja for bringing up a very critical issue and relating to that triangular context. Here, supposing we have to take a study forward, I just want to bring a situation like there is a women boss and male employee, a male boss and a women employee, and a women boss and women employee. They're kind of a three. Okay, but I'm not bringing men to men, but I'm bringing men to women, women to men, and women to women.
Okay.
So in these things, and taking a cue or a learning from whatever you have given us, what are those three things we should focus if you have to study and kind of a create some kind of a data point that would help us to understand the behavioral patterns, the attitudinal patterns, the change factors, the empowerment factors, and kind of things if you have to do it. How do we conceptualize and then contextualize the study going forward? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manohar. I hope I'm able to give you some context. It's a very deep question, a wonderful question, a very deep question, and I love the intention from which you've asked. So if this answer is not, does not delve into all the aspects, feel free to set up that strategy consult that I said. But coming back to it, regardless of whichever genders are in conversation or in communication or in collaboration with each other, to see the patterns, right? Some of the tools that could help is an anonymous survey or feedback where you ask very specific questions about people's experiences in the team. So, for example, you can ask questions as how do you, how you don't have to ask people for their names, but you can ask people for their gender, and hopefully it's a large enough team that it's only not one woman and 19 men, so the name would be out even if it's anonymous. So anyway. So assuming that is a large enough group, you can ask questions like, how much acknowledged do you feel in the team? What do you think are your career opportunities going ahead? Is your gender do you think your gender is going to be a factor in your career progress? So asking those questions, asking the right questions, right, would help uncover what is the real pain point. You can ask some very specific questions, some open-ended questions will reveal specific pain points. Dr.
Okay.
Manohar, please feel free to
I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good inputs. Thanks a lot. We would like to construct a kind of a study on this. Maybe I will seek the help of Dr. Padmaja too, so we can work together, Doctor. And with your mentoring of this kind of thing, what I see many times, women boss and men employees in the last decade or the earlier, there used to be a lot of resentment and kind of a psychological repulsions, particularly in the labor-oriented industry. Okay, but of late in the IT kind of the technology kind of thing, that people are accepting it. So I would like to see the kind of a trend that has changed from then to now and what is going to be in the future. So we would like to construct a study on this. We certainly look forward to your guidance, and we can work together. Your Poland experience or your German experience, your overseas, whatever
and
it
also
is.
experience.
Yeah. Sure. So please be. I request you to be part of our intention, and we can take it forward. Thank you.
Happy to share my insights and support.
Thank you, Dr. Augustus. Let's go forward. Shekhar, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Manohar.
We must thank BCIC for giving us this wonderful opportunity to listen to something new. We've all heard of gender equality, but this was something new I recently learned. today. It's really, really interesting. Thanks for this session, BCIC and Augustus.
Appreciate it. Feel much encouraged by your words, Dr. Padmaja. Any further questions for Meera?
Yeah. Am I permitted to ask one more question, Meera and Augustus?
Yeah, we have about 3 minutes
Okay.
and we'll keep it short. Thank you.
Just a short question, Meera. Is this also followed in startups, Meera?
Yeah, so these fundamentals, Dr. Padmaja, can be applied to small and large organizations, startups, because what I shared today are the foundations. And then, depending on the nature of the organization or the nature of the data that emerges or people's conversations that emerges, we'll have different ways of creating that journey. So the journey would be different, but the foundation would be the same.
But not much of it is actually practiced, If
Yes,
that's what I feel.
exactly. So the point is, I know that what I shared is not rocket science. And the best thing is some of the best, some of the best practices are not rocket science. It's about empathy. It's about human connection. If we can bring that in, the thing just expands. Like I was saying, we don't need magic wands. We have magicians inside our own organizations. Just empower them. Tell them that we acknowledge you. Empower them. That's all we need.
Thank you,
So
Meera.
it
Thank
all
you, Dr. Padmaja.
So it all comes
There's
back to again employee engagement only, right? It all tapers to employee engagement again.
There are three factors. There are three actors or three participants: the employee, the leadership, and the organization as its culture as a whole. So all three have to participate. It's not just the
Right.
manager of the organization, but also the employee. So that is where employee empowerment comes in.
Thanks, Meera.
Else it becomes a victimhood, right? We act as victims as employees. If we look forward to the organization and the manager to do everything for us, we can also be thought leaders and culture changers. I know there is a lot of psychological safety to be built, but these are the foundations. Happy to go into another session to go into details, but for now I'll be mindful of the time. But thank you for the wonderful question, Dr. Padmaja.
I was just thinking that these questions from you, Dr. Padmaja and Dr. Manohar, would call for another session by itself, right? But I hope we can get there. Quickly, there's a question from Akhil Harikumar. We'll keep that as the last question before we close. Thank you. Akhil, go ahead and ask your question, please. You could also post it on chat in case you're unable to pose your question here. Okay, Akhil, thank you. So with that, this brings us to the end of the session. Like I said earlier, we would have this recording going out to those folks who could not attend, but for all of you who made it here, thank you so much. And this has been a very enriching experience for me. And I feel so much more educated on the entire spectrum of diversity. We've had participants here who are diversity leaders in large MNCs to business owners to women leaders. And I'm sure that the takeaway is going to be very, very valuable. And this can lead to further interactions as well as alliances and relationships and consulting as we drive women diversity and especially overall diversity across our organizations. With that, Meera, once again, thank you so much on behalf of the Women's Empowerment and Leadership Committee and the HR Committee. We have a whole bunch of people who are supporting us and powering us. I can't call out all the names, but definitely, my co-chair Lavanya, who is the CEO of Zubame, she couldn't really come here. That's a very large intimate wear brand in India. And of course, our mentors, Dr. B.C. Prabhakar, as well as Mr. Param. Thank you for all the support that you've given us. And of course, to our office bearers, President and Vice President. And last but not least, Rupa. Great shout out to Rupa for making this program a success and for getting us all together here and the team behind this entire webinar. So thank you once again. Take care, stay safe, and Meera, will stay connected. And I'm sure you made a lot of friends now on your LinkedIn and
Happy.
the engagement on that. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, August. Thank you. Bye.
Just before we close,
Oh, sorry.
no. Before we close, we will just like to play a small thank you video as a token of our appreciation.
Sure.
Please do stay with us. Thank you very much, Meera, once again. And on behalf of the chamber, we thank all the participants for joining us for this session.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.